Alexandra Whitman stepped into the restaurant beside Dante Reeves. Her CEO smile still perfect, but her hands trembling, when the check arrived. She placed exactly $5 on the table, cold and calculated as always, then discreetly slipped a folded note beneath the bill. Henry Carter, a single father working the evening shift, bent to clear the table and saw the words, "My daughter was kidnapped. He's with me. Please help." He looked up. Dante was staring directly at him. Alexandra gave the smallest shake of her head. "Don't call the police." Henry Carter had learned to notice details. It came with the territory of raising an 8-year-old daughter alone, of working late shifts at an upscale restaurant where wealthy clients expected perfect service without ever looking you in the eye. Tonight was supposed to be routine. Clear tables, smile politely, collect tips that would help pay for Matilda's upcoming field trip. Nothing about the evening had prepared him for the note now burning a hole in his apron pocket. The woman who'd left it, Alexandra Whitman. He'd heard Dante call her, carried herself with the kind of authority that made people step aside in hallways. Even now, trapped at a table with a man who held her daughter hostage, she maintained perfect posture, perfect diction, the mask of absolute control. But Henry had watched her hands shake when she reached for her water glass. He'd seen the way her throat worked when she swallowed, the way her eyes refused to meet anyone's gaze for more than a heartbeat. Dante Reeves sat across from her with the posture of someone used to being in charge, but wrong somehow. His suit was expensive, his manner polite, but he positioned himself with clear sightlines to both exits. His fingers drummed against the table in rhythms that had nothing to do with the soft jazz playing overhead. Every few minutes he would tilt his head slightly, as though listening to instructions from someone Henry couldn't see. The restaurant's VIP section offered privacy, warm lighting, professional service, everything the wealthy expected. Tonight, it felt like a cage. Henry had taken this shift because the tips in this section could be 3 times what he'd make anywhere else. Matilda needed new shoes. She had a school event coming up. The practical concerns of single parenthood had driven him here, and now those same instincts were screaming that something was catastrophically wrong. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Still no response from Matilda to his earlier text. She usually answered right away, even if just with an emoji. The silence added to the low-grade anxiety already crawling up his spine. He forced himself to focus on the table before him, on the note that proved someone else's child was in immediate danger. Alexandra had ordered with the precision of someone accustomed to executive decisions, then changed her mind twice. Dante had cut her off, gesturing for speed, and Henry had seen the flash of fear cross her face before she could hide it. This wasn't about indecision. She was buying time. Every minute at this table was another minute her daughter stayed alive. The security cameras had blind spots. Henry knew because he'd seen the restaurant manager point them out during orientation. The table where Alexandra and Dante sat was positioned in one of those gaps. Not an accident. Someone had planned this carefully. Henry moved through his routine with mechanical precision, serving other tables, refilling water glasses, all while his mind raced through impossible scenarios. A child was in danger. The woman who could save her was being controlled by a man who clearly had backup, and somehow, inexplicably, desperately, she had chosen to trust a waiter she'd never met with the most important message of her life. When Alexandra called for the check, her voice remained steady, but Henry caught the slight tremor in her fingers as she signed. She placed the $5 bill on the table with deliberate care, the kind of tip that would normally insult in a place like this. Then her hand moved again, so subtle he almost missed it, sliding the folded note beneath the currency. Henry approached to clear the table, his heartbeat suddenly loud in his ears. He lifted the bill and saw the paper underneath, unfolded it with practiced casualness, and read words that turned his blood cold. My daughter was kidnapped. He's with me. Please help. The handwriting was controlled but hurried, each letter formed with the precision of someone fighting panic. Henry's eyes lifted involuntarily. Dante was watching him with the focused attention of a predator tracking prey. The man's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted, coiled tighter. Alexandra met Henry's gaze for exactly 1 second. In that moment, he saw past the CEO mask to the terrified mother beneath. Then she shook her head, a movement so small anyone else would have missed it entirely. The message was clear. Don't make a scene. Don't call for help. Don't do anything that will get my daughter killed. Henry slipped the note into his apron pocket and continued clearing the table as though nothing had changed. His hands moved automatically, stacking plates, gathering silverware, every motion exactly as it should be. Inside. His mind was screaming. A child. Someone's daughter. The same age as Matilda. Probably. Frightened. Alone. Depending on adults to save her. But what could he do? Dante was right there, watching every move. One wrong step and whatever leverage he held over Alexandra would be used. The girl would pay the price for Henry's interference. Henry returned to the kitchen, disposed of the dishes, and allowed himself exactly 10 seconds to think. His background wasn't heroic. He'd worked security for a few years before Matilda was born, mostly night shifts at office buildings, learning to notice patterns and stay calm under pressure. Nothing that prepared him for this. But it had taught him one crucial skill: observation, without reaction. He returned to the floor, serving other tables, establishing normalcy. But his attention kept circling back to Alexandra and Dante. The way Dante checked his phone repeatedly, screen always angled away. The way Alexandra's shoulders had locked into rigid lines, her breathing too controlled. The way neither of them touched their food, despite having ordered. Henry needed information. He needed to understand what he was dealing with before making any move that could prove fatal. He found an excuse to pass their table again, offering water refills. Dante kept one hand near his jacket at all times, and Henry caught the outline of something hard beneath the fabric. Armed. Then, the stakes were exactly as high as the note suggested. Alexandra responded to Henry's offer with corporate coldness. No. The single word was clipped, dismissive. But her eyes were wet, and Henry understood the performance for what it was: protection. The less connection she showed to him, the safer they both were. Dante studied Henry with narrowed eyes, and in that moment, Henry made a choice. He couldn't pretend this wasn't happening. A little girl's life was literally in his hands, but he also couldn't charge in blindly and get her killed. He needed an ally. Someone who could move without drawing attention. Someone who understood how to handle situations that required discretion and speed. Archie worked valet, parking cars for restaurant patrons and occasionally helping Henry with tasks that required an extra pair of hands. More importantly, Archie noticed things. License plates, makes, and models. Who arrived with whom, in a business where details mattered. Archie was invaluable. Henry caught him during a lull between arrivals. Need a favor? Don't ask questions. The couple at table 7, I need their vehicle information. License plate. Anything you can remember. Archie's eyebrows rose, but he'd worked with Henry long enough to recognize serious when he heard it. Give me 2 minutes. While Archie checked his records, Henry pulled out his phone and scrolled to a contact he hadn't used in over a year. Clinton Hayes, former colleague from Henry's security days, now working private investigation. Clinton had told Henry to call if he ever needed anything. At the time, it had seemed like empty courtesy. Now it might be the only lifeline he had. Archie returned with a note card. Black sedan, license plate 7 Delta Echo 693, registered to a rental company. They arrived 40 minutes ago. Henry memorized the number, thanked Archie, and stepped into the staff corridor. His hands shook slightly as he dialed Clinton's number. The investigator answered on the second ring. "Carter, this is a surprise. I have a situation." Henry kept his voice low, controlled. "There's a child in danger. A woman's being controlled by someone who I believe is armed. I have a license plate. I need help, but I need it quiet. No sirens, no police presence yet. If this goes loud, the girl dies." The line went silent for 3 seconds. Then Clinton's voice came back, professional and focused. "Give me the details." Henry relayed everything: the note, Dante's behavior, Alexandra's fear, the license plate. Clinton listened without interruption, and when Henry finished, the investigator's response was immediate. "I can track the vehicle, but Carter, you need to understand what you're stepping into. If this is a genuine kidnapping, these people don't negotiate. They'll kill to protect themselves." "I know," Henry said. "But if I do nothing, that child has no chance at all." "Give me 20 minutes to get people in position. Don't engage until I give you the signal. And Carter, stay alive. Your daughter needs you." The reminder hit hard. Matilda. She still hadn't responded to his messages, and now he was diving headfirst into something that could get him killed. But the image of an 8-year-old girl, terrified and alone, held captive while her mother sat helpless across town, that image wouldn't let him walk away. Henry returned to the floor. Dante and Alexandra were preparing to leave. She'd stood, collected her purse, every movement precisely controlled. Dante rose beside her, one hand on her elbow in a gesture that looked courteous but functioned as restraint. As they moved toward the exit, Alexandra stumbled slightly. Her purse dropped. Items scattered across the floor. Dante's jaw tightened, but he couldn't stop her from bending to retrieve them without causing a scene. Henry moved to help, professional courtesy automatic. He gathered a lipstick, a business card holder, and then he sawed a small bracelet, child-sized, with colorful beads spelling out Audrey. Alexandra's hand closed over it the same moment Henry's did. Their fingers touched for half a second. She pulled the bracelet away, stood, and met his eyes with an expression of such desperate hope it nearly broke him. The message was clear. Her daughter was real. The danger was real. And Alexandra was entrusting that reality to a stranger because she had no other choice. Dante's hand tightened on Alexandra's elbow. "Ready?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. They walked toward the exit, and Henry felt the moment slipping away. Every instinct screamed to stop them, to block their path, to do something. But he'd promised Clinton 20 minutes. He'd promised to stay smart. Archie appeared at his shoulder. "They're getting into the sedan now, heading east toward the interstate." Henry's phone buzzed. "Clinton, I have eyes on the vehicle, following at distance. Stay ready." The restaurant continued around him as though nothing had changed. Diners laughed over wine. Servers moved with practiced efficiency. The world kept turning while somewhere in the city, a little girl named Audrey waited for rescue that might never come. Henry's shift supervisor appeared. "Carter, you look like hell. Everything okay?" "Family emergency," Henry said. The lie came easily. "I need to leave early. It's urgent." The supervisor frowned, but nodded. "Fine, but you owe me." Henry was already moving, stripping off his apron, grabbing his jacket. He had Clinton's location sharing enabled on his phone. The sedan was heading toward the warehouse district, an area of the city known for abandoned buildings and industrial spaces rarely used after dark. He met Clinton at a predetermined intersection, sliding into the investigator's car without ceremony. Clinton was exactly as Henry remembered mid-40s. Graying hair, eyes that missed nothing. "Your target picked up a tail about 2 miles back," Clinton said without preamble. "White van, staying 3 cars behind. Professional spacing. Our friend Dante isn't working alone. Henry handed over the note, watched Clinton read it, saw the investigator's expression harden. This complicates things. If the daughter is the leverage, we need to locate her first. Rescuing the mother does nothing if the child dies. Can you track Dante's communications? Not legally, not in the time frame we have, but I can follow patterns. Clinton pulled up a tablet showing traffic camera feeds. Look at the route. He's circling, checking for tails, making sure he's clean. That's counter-surveillance behavior, military or law enforcement training. Who is he? Clinton ran the license plate through several databases, his fingers moving rapidly. Rental car, paid cash, fake ID, but... He pulled up another screen. Facial recognition got a hit. Dante Reeves, former logistics contractor for Whitman Industries, fired 8 months ago during company restructuring. So this is revenge. Revenge plus opportunity. Clinton enlarged another window showing financial records. Reeves filed for bankruptcy 4 months ago, lost his house, his savings, blamed Alexandra Whitman personally, posted about it on social media before his accounts went dark. Henry's mind raced. If this is just about money, why the elaborate setup? Why not demand ransom remotely? Because it's not just about money. Clinton tapped the screen. Look at the route again. He's not going to a drop-off point. He's taking her somewhere specific, somewhere he has leverage beyond the girl. Henry's phone buzzed. Unknown number, he answered cautiously. Daddy! His heart stopped. Matilda, I'm okay. A man said you needed me to wait at Mrs. Chen's house. He said it was an emergency. His daughter's voice was small, confused. Ice flooded Henry's veins. Baby, I need you to listen very carefully. What man? What did he look like? I don't know. He knocked on our door and said you sent him. He showed me a picture of you and me together, from last summer. Someone had researched him, found his daughter, used her to distract him or possibly control him. Henry's free hand clenched into a fist. Matilda, I need you to stay with Mrs. Chen. Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone except me or the police. Do you understand? Daddy, you're scaring me. I know, baby, but I need you to be brave for me. Can you do that? Okay. Her voice wavered. I love you. I'll explain everything soon. But right now, just stay safe. Please. He ended the call and looked at Clinton. They know about Matilda. They researched me, which means they expected you to help. They planned for the possibility of Alexandra making contact. Clinton's expression turned grim. This is more sophisticated than a simple kidnapping for ransom. Reeves has backing, resources, intelligence. The sedan ahead turned into an industrial park, abandoned factories creating shadows in the streetlight. Clinton killed his headlights and followed at maximum distance. We need backup, Henry said. Called them already, but they're 20 minutes out, and we don't have 20 minutes. Clinton parked behind a rusted container. Here's what we know: Reeves has Alexandra. Someone else has the daughter. They're coordinated. And now they've sent a message to your home, which means they know you're involved. So what do? We find out what Reeves really wants, because whatever it is, it's bigger than ransom money. Clinton pulled up another screen, this one showing corporate filings. Whitman Industries handles international logistics, shipments, customs clearances, import-export licenses. If I wanted to move something illegal through that system, I'd need someone at the executive level to approve it. Understanding crashed over Henry. He's not just kidnapping her daughter for money. He's forcing Alexandra to authorize something, use her position to smuggle something through. Exactly. And if we stop him here without finding what he's planning, his partners still have the leverage. The girl still dies. Dante's sedan pulled into a warehouse loading bay. Alexandra stepped out, her movements stiff, even from a distance. Henry could see her fear. A second car appeared, the white van that had been tailing them. 2 men emerged, neither of them speaking as they flanked Alexandra. Dante checked his phone, typed something, then gestured toward the warehouse entrance. Clinton zoomed in with the telephoto lens. "He's coordinating with someone, checking in. Whatever the next phase is, it's happening now." Henry's mind raced through scenarios, each one ending badly. "We can't just watch her go in there." "We won't. But we need to be smart. They have protocols, fail-safes. If Alexandra doesn't cooperate, or if we intervene wrong, someone activates Plan B and the girl dies. Then what's Plan A?" Clinton was already moving, pulling equipment from the car's trunk. "Plan A is we split up. You stay here. Keep eyes on Alexandra. I take a team and track down where they're holding the daughter. We hit both locations simultaneously, overwhelming their ability to execute any of their contingencies." "How do you find the girl?" "Phone records, surveillance, process of elimination. Reeves had to communicate with his partners. Those communications leave traces." Clinton handed Henry a small radio. "Stay on this channel. Update me every 5 minutes. If anything changes, anything at all, you call it in immediately." "And if they move Alexandra before you find Audrey?" Clinton's expression was grim. "Then you do whatever you have to do to keep that woman alive. Because she's the only leverage we have to get her daughter back." The investigator vanished into the darkness, leaving Henry alone with nothing but a radio, a phone, and a view of a warehouse where a terrified CEO was being forced to make impossible choices. Inside the warehouse, visible through a grimy window, Alexandra stood before a laptop. Dante positioned himself behind her, pointing at the screen. Even without audio, Henry could read the body language. "Sign this. Approve this. Use your executive access to make this legitimate." Alexandra's hands hovered over the keyboard but didn't type. Her head shook. "No." Dante pulled out his phone, tapped something, then held it up to Alexandra's face. The change in her expression was immediate and devastating. Her shoulders collapsed. Her hand flew to her mouth. Whatever he'd shown her, a photo, a video. Proof that he really did have Audrey. It broke through her last resistance. Her hands moved to the keyboard. Henry's radio crackled. "Carter, I've got a location. Analyzing phone patterns from Reeves' known associates. Narrowed it to 3 possible sites. Sending units to each now." "She's about to sign something," Henry transmitted back. "We're out of time. Stall her. Do anything. I need 5 more minutes." 5 minutes. An eternity when a child's life hung in the balance. Henry made a decision that violated every instruction Clinton had given him. He stepped out from behind cover and walked directly toward the warehouse entrance. The door was unlocked. Sloppy, or a trap. Either way. He was committed now. He entered a corridor lined with rusted machinery, following the sound of voices to a large open space where Alexandra stood before the laptop. Dante behind her. 2 other men positioned near the exits. Henry stepped into the light. "I think you dropped something at the restaurant." Every head turned. Dante's hand moved toward his jacket. One of the guards drew a weapon. Alexandra's face went white. "Who the hell are you?" Dante's voice was tight. Controlled rage barely leashed. "Just a waiter. Came to return this." Henry held up the child's bracelet, the one Alexandra had dropped, the one he'd palmed before she could retrieve it. "Seemed important." Dante studied him with predatory focus. "You followed us. Noticed you left in a hurry. Wanted to make sure the lady was okay." Henry kept his voice even, his posture non-threatening. Every second he bought was another second Clinton had to find Audrey. "You should leave," Alexandra said. Her voice strained. "This doesn't concern you." "Respectfully, ma'am, I think it does." Henry looked directly at Dante. "Because I read the note. I know what's happening." And I know you need her alive, which means you need me to walk out of here quietly. So, let's talk about terms. Dante's laugh was cold. Terms, you think you have leverage. I think I'm the guy who can give you what you want without anyone getting hurt. I'm also the guy who called his investigator friend 20 minutes ago and gave him your license plate, your route, and a full description. So if something happens to me, if I don't check in every 10 minutes, this whole building gets swarmed by people with badges and guns. It was mostly bluff, but Dante didn't know that. The man's jaw clenched, calculating. What do you want? Dante finally asked. Proof of life. Show me the girl is okay. Let the mother see her. And then we can discuss whatever you need her to sign. That's not how this works. Then you get nothing, because the second she signs whatever's on that screen without knowing her daughter is safe, she'll recant. She'll expose everything. You know it. I know it. I know. So prove the girl is alive and well, and maybe we all walk away from this. Dante's phone rang. He answered, listened, his expression darkening. We have a problem. Someone's at the secondary location. Police units, moving fast. Clinton had found Audrey. Dante turned to Alexandra. Sign it, now, or I give the order and your daughter dies before anyone can reach her. Don't. Henry stepped forward. You give that order. You lose your only leverage. Then you're just a kidnapper, and everything you planned falls apart. He's right. Alexandra's voice cut through the tension. You kill her. I have no reason to protect you. I'll scream everything to every authority I can reach. You'll spend the rest of your life in prison. Dante's hand trembled on the phone. For the first time, Henry saw uncertainty in the man's eyes. The plan was unraveling. The timeline had collapsed, and now Dante faced a choice: cut his losses or escalate to violence. The radio in Henry's pocket crackled loud enough for everyone to hear. Carter, we've got her. The girl is safe. I repeat, Audrey Whitman is secure. The change in Alexandra was immediate. The corporate mask shattered. She made a sound half sob, half gasp, and her legs nearly buckled. Dante's face twisted with rage. He moved toward Alexandra, weapon drawn. Henry didn't think. He grabbed the nearest object, a rusted pipe, and swung it into Dante's arm. The gun clattered across concrete. The two guards moved, but the warehouse doors burst open and Clinton's team flooded in. Weapons drawn, voices shouting commands. It ended in seconds. Dante and his associates on the ground, handcuffed. Alexandra collapsed into a chair, shaking uncontrollably. Henry backed away, letting the professionals take over. His part in this was done. Clinton appeared at his side. That was stupid, reckless, and possibly saved her life. Don't ever do it again. Is the girl really okay? Scared but unharmed, she's asking for her mother. Henry watched as medics checked Alexandra, as police took statements, as the machinery of justice ground into motion. This would be headlines tomorrow. CEO saved from kidnapping plot. Corporate conspiracy exposed. But right now, in this moment, all that mattered was a little girl who would see her mother again. Clinton pulled Henry aside. We found Dante's partner in the system, an inside man named Corbin Pierce, Alexandra's logistics coordinator. He'd been setting this up for months, feeding Dante information, creating access points, planning to use Alexandra's authority to move illegal shipments through customs. When we arrested Corbin, he rolled on everything, names, accounts, the whole operation. So it's over. The immediate danger, yes, but Alexandra is going to have a long road ahead. The company, the investigation, rebuilding trust. She compromised her own security by being isolated at the top. This was a vulnerability created by her own management style. Henry understood. The CEO who'd terrified subordinates, who'd maintained such distance that no one noticed when she was in trouble, who'd fired people without considering the consequences. She'd created the conditions for her own nightmare. But she'd also chosen to trust a stranger with the most precious thing in her life, and in that moment of desperate faith, she'd shown more humanity than any corporate quarterly report could measure. 3 days later, Henry was back at work, clearing tables, collecting tips, trying to return to normal. Matilda was safe. Alexandra's daughter was safe. The monsters were in custody. Everything should have felt resolved. The restaurant manager approached. "Mr. Carter, there's someone here to see you." Alexandra Whitman stood near the entrance, looking smaller somehow without the armor of corporate power. She wore simple clothes, her hair loose, her face showing signs of sleepless nights. "May I speak with you?" she asked. "Just for a moment." They stepped outside, into the cool evening air. "I wanted to thank you properly," she began. "Not as a CEO to an employee, as one parent to another. You don't need to thank me. I did what anyone would do." "No." Her voice was firm. "Most people would have looked away, called the police and hoped for the best. You risked your life. You risked your daughter's safety. You saw a stranger's plea for help, and you answered it." Henry didn't know what to say. "I've spent years building walls," Alexandra continued. "Being hard, being distant, being the kind of person people fear. I thought that was strength. I thought that protected me." She laughed bitterly. "It nearly got my daughter killed." "You did what you had to do to survive in your world." "Maybe, but that world is changing. I'm changing." She pulled an envelope from her purse. "This is a college fund for Matilda. Not charity, not payment, just one parent helping another because that's what decent people do." Henry started to refuse, but Alexandra held up a hand. "I also wanted to give you this." She placed something small on the table between them. A $5 bill, crisp and new. Beneath it, a note. Henry unfolded the paper and read, "Thank you for reading. Thank you for not looking away." His throat tightened. "I'll never forget," Alexandra said quietly, "that my daughter's life was worth exactly $5 and a desperate prayer that someone decent would read the message. You were that someone. You restored my faith that kindness still exists, even in strangers." She turned to leave, then paused. "The college fund isn't negotiable. By the way, it's done. But if you ever need anything at all, you call me. That's not a CEO making a corporate gesture. That's a mother who knows what it means to have someone stand up when the world is falling apart." Henry watched her walk away, the $5 bill still on the table. He picked it up, held it to the light, and thought about the weight a small gesture could carry. How a folded note beneath a tip could change everything. How courage wasn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it was just choosing to see what others ignored. He tucked the bill and note into his wallet, next to a photo of Matilda. Reminders, both of them, of what mattered. The restaurant door opened. Customers filed in, expecting service, expecting professionalism. Henry straightened his apron, put on his professional smile, and returned to work. Just a waiter clearing tables and collecting tips, but also someone who knew that every interaction mattered, that every person deserved to be seen, that sometimes the smallest acts of attention could save a life. Somewhere across the city, a little girl named Audrey slept safely in her own bed, her mother watching over her through the night. And because one man had chosen to read a desperate message instead of looking away, both of them had a future. The $5 bill remained in Henry's wallet for years afterward. He never spent it, whenever he doubted himself. Whenever the world seemed too hard or too cruel, he would take it out and remember. Kindness doesn't require wealth or power. It only requires willingness to act when action matters most. And sometimes, $5 and a folded note are enough to change the world.